This session, as you know, is a panel of college counselor experts, okay? And so I'm going to first allow them to introduce themselves, a brief introduction, and then we're going to give them an opportunity to have some time to talk directly with you about the nitty-gritty of college admissions. So first, would Trisha please give a brief introduction?
Sure. Hi, I'm Trisha Euler, and I am with Summit College Advising. I'll give a little bit more detail about what we do during my presentation, but welcome. I'm so happy to be here today. And my background is in college counseling. I was actually a counselor at Westlake. So some of your names I recognize from your older kids. So nice to be here.
Thank you, Trisha. Okay, Elizabeth, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hunt with Elizabeth Hunt College Counseling. I am a Westlake parent, actually three Westlake chaparral grads who have all gone on to college and graduated. And so I can empathize with you as parents and hopefully provide some information as a counselor. I have been an admissions reviewer at the University of Texas, and my former life was as a CPA and a nonprofit financial manager. So some of those skills have transferred over nicely, and especially the project management skills, because this application process is project management in many ways. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And now, Dale, will you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. And go Chaps, everybody. Welcome to this presentation. My name is Dale Price with Access College America, based here in Austin. We work mostly with Westlake families and a few other high schools. I'm just really excited to be here. Where you send your kid to college is going to be one of the most precious, most expensive gifts that you ever give them. And for so many high school teens, this might be the first real adult decision they've made, where to go to college, and that can be daunting. So my intention is to give you as much information as we possibly can in this brief time together, and let's do it.
Thank you, Dale. I also want to thank, we have our Westlake High School counselors in the Zoom right now, Katie Broderick, Carmine Castaldo, and Amy Lamhammer. So thank you. They will be helping answer some questions in the chat, and I really appreciate them helping out with this. This is a really big group of parents, so I'm super excited to see that. And I'm Brooke Anderson. I'm one of the school-based therapists here. I forgot I didn't introduce myself. So just a few more housekeeping things, since we did have a lot of people join in. Please do mute yourself. There will be time at the end for questions, but if you have a question that you don't want to forget, you can put it in the chat. Our counselors might answer some of them as we move along, because they might have the answer to those, and then we will get to the other ones at the end. So I'm going to now mute myself and let Trisha be our first presenter.
Okay, great. Can everyone see my screen? Just making sure you can. Okay, well, thank you, Brooke. I am Trisha Euler, as I said, and I'm an independent educational consultant, otherwise known as an IC, a college counselor, an advisor, a college consultant. We're known by many names, but I'm happy to be here today and just talk to you a little bit about what we do and answer some questions that you may have. So first, a little bit about us. Summit College Advising is a husband and wife team. So prior to starting this, Joe and I both worked at schools. Most recently, as I mentioned before, we worked at Westlake High School. Joe worked there for 6 years until 2021. I worked there for 3 years. Prior to that, we both worked at Anderson High School in North Austin. So obviously, we like working together. We tend to do that a lot. My background is in college counseling, and Joe was an English teacher and a speech and debate coach. So we both meet with every student that we work with, but we focus on different aspects of the college search and application process based on our backgrounds and strengths. So a little bit about how we work. We really view college advising as a process. And I think this is really important because the end goal is to find a college where your child will be happy and will thrive, but it's about the process itself, right? So it's about helping them figure out who they are and what their strengths are and how their strengths and their interests can then move into a major and eventually a career. It's about researching colleges to figure out which ones are a good fit. And throughout all of this, it's really about becoming confident and knowledgeable and making those educated decisions. So like Dale said, this is a huge gift that you're giving them, and it's their first adult decision. And so we want to make sure that they make educated ones. Because we want to be a guide during this process, we really think that getting to know each of our students is a strength of ours. And we've worked with thousands of students over the years. And so we're really good about reaching them and getting them to open up about themselves. So a few questions that I know come up a lot. So the first one I want to talk about is rigor in high school. So we often get asked what level of rigor is needed. Unfortunately, as in most things with college admissions, the answer is it depends. All colleges definitely want to see rigor. That is important. They want to know that the students that they admit are interested in learning and are willing and able to do the work at their college. But how much rigor really depends on many factors. So for example, if your child wants to attend a highly selective school, an MIT or a Harvard or a Stanford or a Rice, then your child is going to need to take mostly advanced courses and do well in them in order to be competitive with the other students who are applying. However, if your child wants to attend one of the many universities out there that accept most applicants, then rigor is really important in the areas that your child is interested in. So really, when considering this, it's important to think about your whole child. It's great if your child has the academic capability to take all AP classes, but that doesn't necessarily mean your child should take all the AP classes. So really consider your whole child. Which brings me to a question that really comes a lot. So let's say you've talked it through, your child has decided to take AP classes. Now they're in an AP class and they are drowning. Should they drop it or should they stick it out? When students I work with ask me about dropping an AP class, or a third or fourth year of language, or even an activity they've been in a long time, I start by asking questions, right? So the biggest question is why? Are they struggling with the pressure or completely stressed out? If so, what supports can be put into place? Is the curriculum too hard? If so, has your child talked to their teacher, gone to tutoring, put together a plan to catch up on any missing foundational information, right? These are all things that can be done. Is your child overscheduled, right? So sometimes they want to drop AP classes because they're just overscheduled. So in those cases, questions like, is there something less important to your child that can be changed? And what does that look like? Another question I ask is, what are the potential repercussions of dropping it? Is it a required or highly suggested class at the colleges they want to apply to or within their major? If so, how will dropping it impact their competitiveness? And what does that mean for your child? How does the course fit with the student's intended major. So the conversation about dropping AP Physics with a student who wants to major in journalism is an extremely different conversation from a student who wants to drop AP Physics, who wants to go into engineering, right? And so what does that look like? How does it fit with their interest and their strengths and their potential major? I also ask about other classes and activities that the child is in. So how do these fit into showing the colleges who your child is? And can some of those be adjusted instead, right? Is there a club that your child isn't really that into that maybe would give them more time to focus on the class? And then last, is dropping the best option? Have you considered other options? If you have, sometimes the answer is yes, maybe dropping it is the best. In the end, your child's well-being is absolutely the most important. And rigor is just one piece of the application process. And I always remind families, there are multiple colleges who would love to have your student who took an on-level class. So sometimes dropping it is the right answer. Another question we often get is about what makes a college a good fit, right? So there are so many factors that go into this, and your child should really think through what is important to them and research the schools. So this is an area where parents can really support by helping them research schools or by being a voice of reason, right? So if your child absolutely hates the cold, then you can be that voice that says, why are you looking for colleges in Chicago, right? So what is that and how can you help them in that area? When possible, take your child to visit college campuses. Every college has a different vibe, right? We know this. And you don't really know what that vibe is until you're on that campus and really just experiencing it. So when possible, take them to visit. There are some things that your child should consider throughout this search. So academics, right? So does the school teach in a way that works for your child? If your child is very hands-on or learns a lot by discussions with their peers and their professor, then you have to consider that when thinking about colleges where many of their classes have 200-300 students. So things about that with academics. Also, are they able and willing to keep up? And this is a big deal because sometimes students can get into a college, but they have to be able to maintain the work level at that college too. And so looking at those academics. The major is another thing that's important. Sometimes in the past, I've had students who really wanted to go to a college that did not offer the major that they were really interested in. So that's something that really has to be looked at. Additionally, if your child isn't really sure what they want to major in, does that college have an option to go in undecided or general education and then choose later? Are they able to change majors? Some colleges you can, and other colleges, like for example, UT, make it pretty difficult to change majors. So what does that look like? And then really looking at the classes within the major. Are there classes your child wants to take and is interested in? Location is another one. Location is really important. So, sometimes it's temperature. Sometimes, like I have one student who really likes the rain and would like to go somewhere where it rains a lot. So what are those kinds of temperature or location things? City versus suburban versus rural, what does that look like? What's their preference there? And then financial fit. Does the college give merit aid? Is that something that's really important to your family? Does the college meet financial need? And then the social aspect. What do the students at that college like to do, right? They're going to live there for 4 years, maybe more. And so are these people that your child really wants to hang out with? Do they do the activities that your child also likes? And then just personal preferences. One student I've been working with is a huge foodie. And whenever he's looking at colleges, he's really also thinking about what kinds of restaurants are around there. Is he going to be able to feed that thing that is important to him? Other students, maybe they have a hobby that they like to do that takes up space in their dorm. Are the dorms big enough? So what are these kind of personal preferences? Is a community important? So thinking through all of those will help your child to find a good fit. And another question we get asked about a lot is how to stand out. And I always answer this with being you. You are how you will stand out. Colleges want to know who your child is and who they will be on that college's campus. So it's important for your child to start with knowing who they are and what pieces of themselves they want the colleges to know about them. So that application should tell a story about who the applicant is. Nobody is one-sided, and your child should let the schools know who they are. The essays in this are really an important piece. So much of the application is facts, right? Facts and numbers, the transcript, the classes, things like that. But in the essay, the colleges get to hear your child's voice. So it needs to be in their voice, not edited to the point where it sounds like an adult wrote it. And it's okay and good for students to be themselves. So for example, I worked with a student who was applying to business schools, and her essay was all about how she enjoys making videos with her favorite childhood toys and putting them on YouTube. And she got into her first choice college with a, great scholarship. So it's just important to be who you are. We also often get asked whether it's best to focus on activities in just one thing or be involved in many things. And the answer here, of course, is it depends. There isn't a magic solution. So what's important is to have your child really explore their interests, to focus on what they love to do, and to stretch themselves a bit while they're in high school, and to look for those areas that will be meaningful to them, and to really be in activities that are meaningful to them. So colleges truly don't care that your child spent 140 hours doing community service. I mean, it's great and it's wonderful that they did that, but what the college wants to know about is what is the impact of the activities that your child was involved with? How did your child learn from those activities? How will your child use that information, about themselves or about society or about the environment or whatever it was? How will they use that information to, better themselves and take that forward? And then before I turn it over to the next speaker, I'd just like to leave you with a few tips. First is let your child take the lead. It's hard. I know it's hard. I have a child who went to college already. I know it is hard. I know that they're stressed out and they're busy and they're overwhelmed thinking about this big thing looming over them, but they learn so much about themselves during this process. They learn how to balance and how to be independent and how to seek the help that they need. They are learning to live in a world without your daily support. And this is one of the things that they can do, that they can take the lead on, that will help them feel confident in their abilities. Second, I've now been both a high school counselor at Westlake and an independent college counselor. And I can definitely tell you that there is nothing that a college counselor knows that your school counselor doesn't know or doesn't know how to find, right? The only difference is, as an IEC, we're able to devote time to really getting to know your child, while their counselor has a lot more students. So I say this to say, really encourage your child to reach out to their counselor. They can be a huge help in this process, and really help with those like things that start piling up, right? Those questions they have. And then last, if you're going to work with an IEC, find one that your child likes and is comfortable with, one that will help your child learn to vocalize their strengths, because this is going to be important in the whole process. And it is a personal process. Just as fit is really important in a college, it's also important in the college counselor, with the college counselor. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you, and I will pass it off to the next speaker.
Great. Thank you so much, Trisha. That was awesome. Really helpful information. So now we're going to have Elizabeth Hunt speak. So I'm going to mute myself again and get ready for her topic.
Great. I'm going to try to share my screen now, and hopefully you'll see what I see. Let's see. Brooke, do you see my slideshow?
Not yet.
Not yet.
So nope, it's coming.
Great. Okay.
Yes, we see it now.
Great. Well, again, for those of you who joined late, my name is Elizabeth Hunt, and I'm a sole proprietor, Elizabeth Hunt College Counseling. I do have a website, so you can find out more about my background. I have an independent college counseling certificate from the University of California, San Diego. And as I said earlier, I did work in college admissions for several seasons at the University of Texas, where I read hundreds of applications and thousands of essays, because there are so many supplemental essays. I'm going to maybe move through some of my slides a little bit more quickly, because I don't want to repeat the excellent information that Trisha gave to you. This first quote is one of my favorite quotes by a college counselor in Boston. I've had 3 children go through this process, and they had very different journeys. And, you know, they are now in all 3 have successful careers. It can be done. There are different routes and different journeys. And so I hope that, you know, especially those of you who are just freshmen and 8th grade, that you can just relax and enjoy this exploratory time where I think, as Trisha said at the end, students learn so much about themselves, and so do families. Families learn a lot about their students. And I can assure you, when I talk to students, I often get to see the best sides of the students, and they are listening to you, and they are taking everything that you say into account, even when they roll their eyes. You can be assured that they love you, listening to you, respect your opinions, and you know, it's a wonderful time. I say to parents, listen more than you speak, and ask questions that really can start conversations. And ask those questions when your students are receptive, not after a big workout, or perhaps after a workout, because sometimes they're more relaxed. But anyway, it's just a good time. It can be a good time. I know it's stressful, but visiting schools and researching programs can be a lot of fun, and hopefully you'll get to do a little bit of it together with your child. But as Trisha said, let them take the lead. So I have a few things that are a little bit, let's see if I can move on to the next one. I decided to really focus on some of the questions that I receive most frequently. And one is, how many schools should I apply to? And I'll speak to what's going on in the admissions world a little bit more in just a minute. But this myth of applying to multiple schools with extremely low admit rates increases my chances of getting into one of them. So sometimes if I start with a student a little bit later in junior year or even in senior year, when they give me an initial list of schools that they are interested in, it'll be very top heavy with these low admission rates. And when I say low admission rates, I mean anywhere from 2% up to say 15%. That's going to be reach school for anyone, no matter how excellent your application is. So it's important to create a balanced list and focus on those schools, those possible schools or target schools, as they're sometimes said to be, that are in that 50% admission range when you look at your GPA and test scores. Research programs that are excellent at schools that might be less competitive overall, but they may have programs in the major that your student is interested in that are excellent. And you know, it's important, as Dale was saying before we started the meeting, ranking. I love a quote from I think it's Colleges That Change Lives, where the author says that ranking systems give high marks to schools for refusing admission to the majority of applicants. And, you know, don't get caught up in the ranking game, please. I know that sometimes students do. And especially a school like Westlake that has some very competitive students who go to some of the most highly selective schools, those are the ones that they tend to focus on at first. But there are wonderful schools out there, and the vast majority of schools, of those 4,000 plus schools, have high acceptance rates. So don't get caught up in the top 25 or the top 100, and take a good look at the majors. I encourage students to dig into them. Small liberal arts college, I'm a big proponent. I was so sorry that Yvonne was not able to join us today. She's actually on the board of directors for Colleges That Change Lives. I went to their college fair recently, and some really impressive schools. I've got that, I'm sharing their link in my resources in a few minutes, but you can be a STEM student at a small liberal arts college, and some of those colleges have incredible connections to selective schools. Like I was at Bowdoin last year. Bowdoin has a relationship with Columbia, where you can spend your last years at Columbia in engineering. So, you know, take a look at those and be open-minded. Okay, let me move on. What factors matter most to colleges? Well, the vast majority, it's grades and the rigor of courses taken. Tricia did a great job explaining when to consider rigor and how, but I'm going to focus on these three that are for you juniors and seniors. This is where you're going to be spending some time over the summer and this semester: personal statements and essays, extracurricular activities, and what is this buzzword, demonstrated interest. So let's dig into that just a little bit. What makes a strong personal story essay? So let's talk about essays again. Original voice. So when I talk with students about their first drafts, I say, just consider yourself sitting across from me or a favorite relative or a friend and tell your story. You want your essay to convey some factors or values that might not be found elsewhere in your application. So I put down here at the bottom my favorite essay guy, the college essay guy. I just found out today is his birthday. His name is Ethan Sawyer, and I just think he provides some of the best free resources out there. I think parents enjoy reading through them and watching his YouTube video presentations. The kids love him. He's very engaging, and I think his brainstorming his brainstorming exercises are wonderful. When these students write their essays, they can truly add qualities that cannot be found elsewhere in their application, in their resume, their classwork. So as Tricia said, I think that the story that they can tell, the personal things that they can tell about themselves, really add a personality to the application. And I'll tell you the story. I work with a nonprofit called Breakthrough Central Texas that serves first-gen applicants. One of the young ladies that I worked with about 4 years ago, and I was assigned to her late, It was Halloween weekend. She was really struggling with her essay ideas. And she was also very shy. So I was asking her some questions, trying to draw a little bit out of her. I asked her about what she was doing for Halloween. And she proceeded to tell me about her family's traditions for Day of the Dead celebrations, the little shrine that they set up, the food that they cooked, the extended family that showed up to the table. And by the time she finished her descriptions and how much the people had affected her life, I said, "You have just written your essay." And she did write a beautiful essay about those reflections. And it was one of my favorites of the many that I've read, and many that I read as an application reviewer were mediocre. And I read so many about overcoming the loss in a big game. A lot of athletes will write about the loss or the big win. There's more, and that's why I like Ethan, his essay resources, because it really you'll start brainstorming and think of some things that you might not have ever thought of. Let's see. So activities lists. I'm starting here. I wasn't really sure how many freshman and sophomore parents we had with us today, but I think that, beginning in elementary school, just encourage your children to explore. I encourage my younger students to start interviewing people, especially in the summertime. Many don't really know that much about careers. They say, "I want to major in business," but what is it about business that you think you would enjoy? So interview parents, friends, build a contact list, start that early. And parents can help you with that contact list. Those can sometimes lead to job shadowing opportunities and internships. When it comes to job shadowing and internships, students can take the initiative. They don't have to Google and try to find internships. You can create your own internship. And so I encourage students to visit and tour workplaces during the summer or during holidays. I've got here work on badges or projects related to career exploration. These are all the things that you can do early on in school, just to learn about the world around you. And then as you move into high school, enroll in activities that are related to your current interests. Start to take a deeper dive, start to make an impact and measure that impact through select activities that you get involved in. And you'll sometimes hear the cliche, depth versus breadth. It's very true. I mean, students used to focus on having hundreds of community service hours, but now it's important for them to, and it's helpful to them to really dive into activities that are most interesting to them. So if they're a member of something like National Charity League or Young Men's Service League, choose one of those nonprofits that is most interesting to you. Dive into that and maybe do a special project for that nonprofit. That's one way you'll show leadership. You don't necessarily have to be a team captain or be president of the student council. You can show leadership in other ways. It's important to show that initiative. As you start to build puzzle pieces of that application, think about your major interest as well. Let's see if I've got that. Not yet. I think one of my favorite examples of building activities that align with interest was a young woman who was interested in biological sciences, loved butterflies, visited the museum in Houston at the Natural Science Museum, asked if she could shadow a couple of the scientists in the museum for a couple of days. That led to a project with the museum, a research project. Then she also worked with a nonprofit here in Austin and built a butterfly garden in collaboration with that nonprofit. So I think that it's a great way to show your major interest, which is becoming it, and it is important, as Tricia said, especially at some of the larger universities that really want to know your major interest. While there are interdisciplinary studies out there, the larger universities are going to ask you to consider major. Okay, another buzzword these days is what is demonstrated interest and why does it matter? You probably heard about application inflation. And again, as I said earlier, that's when you're really looking at those top ranked schools. Well, what is rank? And, you know, I think it's unfortunate that so much emphasis is put on college rank. The rankings are made up by the schools themselves. So, I mean, as far as what criteria go into those rankings for U.S. News and World Report, for example. But colleges are concerned about their yield, and more students are applying to more colleges. And if you do the math, that's going to make a student less likely to enroll in any given campus. So they're watching their yield, and they want to see or think about who is going to actually come to school here, and demonstrated interest comes into play. So one thing they're doing is I'm seeing an increase in unique supplemental essay questions. It used to be why this major, why this school. Now you'll see some that are just unique to that university, and they want to see that you're taking the time to research their school and answer that question, and not do it in a hurriedly way. And changes in technology are making it easier for colleges to track how you engage with them. So show your love to all your schools when you eventually make that college list, and treat each college you apply to like it is your #1 school. There are many ways to do that. I don't have time to go into them today, but demonstrated interest is a big topic of conversation on college blogs, etc. So please look at that. I think that the student, as I say here, benefits from demonstrating interest. That's when they take that deeper dive into looking at the majors, the programs, the professors who teach the classes, and the students. The #1 way, I think the way to really get started is to dive into that academics tab on each individual website and look at the majors, and then dig into that website. There are often student stories, professor stories, professor research. It's an important piece. And I think that an example, I was at a conference last month where one of the counselors said that her student, she was a Texas counselor, got into the University of Texas, but she did not get into SMU or TCU. She was very surprised. The counselor said she just really didn't show them any interest at all. She didn't connect with the counselors at the school. She didn't do more than just the general tour. There's a lot more to say about that, and you can definitely read about that online. I'm not going to take Dale's time, but I did want to share some important resources with you. College admission blogs, there's some great ones. You can hear about what's going on in the admissions world straight from the mouths of the admissions officers. Some of them are quite clever. I love Georgia Tech and MIT. They're funny, they're interesting. Georgia does a great job on the admissions blog about trying to be transparent about where they are in the process as you move through the year. USC also has a good one, but that's one area that your student can explore. The common data set, all the numbers you could ever want. I'll let you Google that, but that's where you can find all of the data about admit rates, SAT, ACT scores. Again, the college essay guide, the FISC guide to colleges. You can check that out at the library or order one from Amazon. That gives you a great look at not only the school, but the community that the school sits in, about the social life, all kinds of good information. Some of us who use platforms may have that embedded in the project platform that we use as we guide students. And then Colleges That Change Lives. It's a great book. There are many great books out there. But yes, I hope that I had the chance to answer some questions, and we'll move along to Dale.
Well, thank you so much. This is so interesting. So much really good information. I'm going to go ahead and do my slides. And again, thank you to Ms. Anderson and Ms. Bryant for scheduling this. Go Chaps. My name is Dale Price. with Access College America. We're based here in Austin, and we work mostly with families from Westlake. It's such a special school. And I know I mentioned a moment ago about those rankings. The only ranking that I believe that gets released to the public is this ranking right here. According to niche.com, the #1 school district in Texas is Eanes. So that's the only ranking that I actually really firmly believe. And I know that we talk a lot about this. And the reason why this is important is because so many Westlake students crowdsource their college list. They're applying to the exact same colleges, the exact same majors, and they really aren't going through this experience of reflection and discovery that so many of us have been talking about. So because so many Westlake students apply to the same colleges, University of Texas, A&M, Clemson, UGA, several of the UCs, just to name a few, I want to just briefly mention that experience of what it's like applying to flagship universities. And it's important that you all understand that if you have a school like UT or, Chapel Hill on your list, you're not actually applying to these colleges, these big state schools. As Ms. Hunt was just mentioning, you actually pick a major, and your entire application should be filtered through the lens of that major. And everything really is kind of fair game, starting with the freshman year, the sophomore year, the junior year, all the way through the senior year of high school. And I want to just preface this by saying that you need to really choose wisely. What are you going to study in college? And one of the many things that colleges have that use a holistic review, like the University of Texas, is they're looking for indicators. They're looking for you to demonstrate your intellectual curiosity through your clubs, your associations, your activities, and so forth. So let me just start off by saying, and not that this is intended to be only focused on UT, but it is on the list of so many folks. Schools like UT some of them have as many as 170 different areas of study. We don't all have to, by default, select business or engineering or computer science. So really spend time learning about yourself, doing some career exploration, focusing on discovery. What types of classes are you naturally good at? What do you find yourself doing in your spare time that you can't get enough of as indicators for what you actually might be good at studying, or what you may want to consider doing in college. And like I said at the very beginning, for so many teenagers, this might be a daunting decision. Where am I going to go to college and what am I going to study? And it's so important that you give yourself a runway, because making big decisions like this over the summer going into your senior year when you haven't really set aside time to think about things can really be a little bit like a pressure cooker experience. So, when you are considering, and as Ms. Hunt said, a balanced college list, really think about, for those reach schools on that list, what is it that you are going to declare? Do your activities, do your transcripts really line up with those types of experiences? Are you able to provide evidence of that fit to major? And I did not create this picture, by the way. My assistant did this, but I think it's kind of fun. That we're all jumping. It makes me laugh every time I see it. You can't really take yourself too seriously these days, right? I want to just mention briefly about activity building. And this is something that a lot of Chaps really struggle with because they're so busy. The expectation for excellence, the opportunities for clubs and organizations, and let's not forget the incredible football team and all the sports, that can really soak up a lot of your time. But as I mentioned before, or at least a lot of folks that we work with tend to apply to the same schools, UT, A&M, Clemson, UGA. And a lot of these colleges have what's called that holistic review. And I think it's so important that high school students, as they are going throughout their high school experience, that they're able to create learning experiences that are truly a match for that major. And what I mean by this is universities aren't just looking for consumers of activities. They want you to generate experiences outside of the classroom. So one great way to do this is by creating a capstone project. And I see questions in the chat box right now about how are universities looking at the student experiences because of COVID and disruptions and things like that. Well, you know, creating a home-based project doesn't have to be anything complicated or hard. This is where you say, gosh, I'm really interested in X kind of subject, and I'm going to go create a learning experiences. I'm going to find a mentor and I'm going to document my experience through this project. And that's something that you can create for free at home and include not only on your common application activity list, but it can also go on your expanded resume for the University of Texas as well. Independent research is another really great opportunity, something that you can create in which you are collaborating with a local faculty member at a community college or at a university. A lot of the folks we work with, they literally cold call faculty professors and try to volunteer their time in the labs. Summer planning is really important. You know, some of the more selective colleges, they want to make sure that your learning experience doesn't stop in the classroom when school is out, that it is something that really does continue throughout the summers. And so that is where, you know, if you're a really busy student, or if you're like me and you really had to work hard just to get B's, like I had to study harder. I was not the kind of student in the classroom who like didn't have to study and got A's. I had to really, really work hard just to get B's, A's and B's. So summer, making the most of that summer opportunity is important because your summers are scrutinized by those flagship highly selective. So I bet we have a lot of parents here who have students that want to go to business school or computer science or anything, you know, possibly pre-med. And so if you have a student, for example, interested in business school, McCombs or the Mays School of Business, you know, get them to volunteer or get an intern with their local realtor. There's so many, you know, realtors here in Austin. Maybe they can volunteer or get an internship and work with them on their marketing plan or manage their newsletter. You know, a lot of the Chaps that we work with, they have their own power washing business or their own lawn mowing company. This is awesome. Do you have a business plan for that? And go through that experience of actually creating a business plan that you can use for documentation in your application. Computer science students. This is, and I know that I'm talking a little bit about STEM majors. STEM majors and business is included in STEM. These tend to be the most competitive majors at any university campus. And so with computer science, really important that if you list that that's the topic you're going into or the major you're applying to, hackathons, a GitHub account. Are you coding? Are you tinkering around with computers? These are things that you'll need to demonstrate in your college application to provide evidence of that fit to major. So start looking outside of the classroom to develop an activity list sooner than later so that when you do apply to colleges, you've got a depth of experience, not just surface level stuff that was given to you at your high school, but you're pointing to indicators, aspiring physicians. You know, when COVID happened, you know, that didn't mean that the learning necessarily had to come to a halt. Actually, the beautiful thing that happened with things going virtual is that virtual opportunities became normalized. You know, you can virtually shadow physicians in the OR without actually needing to be present there. And there's so many really great learning experiences for someone that is wanting to go into pre-med where they can create virtual-based learning experiences and document that opportunity. And I will mention this because I'm going to be wrapping up here pretty soon. Layering your application for the win. One of the things that we really are intentional about is the moment you, the first thing you should do with your college applications is really create that expanded resume for the University of Texas or your common application activity list. And you want to map out your experience and themes throughout your application so that as the Office of Admissions reads your application, they're realizing new dimensions of you every time they turn the page, rather than picking one or two accomplishments that you've really drilled home in every part of your application. Layer it so that you can really showcase that fit to that major. And I will line it up right here by being authentic. It's all about being yourself in your college application. This is my little girl, Charlotte. So since I'm talking to a bunch of parents today, I figured that I would actually show you a picture of my little girl. And it's so, and she's in preschool now, she's 2. And it's so important that throughout your high school experience that you do focus on reflection and discovery. You are able to provide validation as to why you want to pick that type of major. We don't really recommend crowdsourcing your college list. I mean, because that's really a hard way of doing this. And everybody is going through this on their own timeline. You're perfect where you're at now. I know that thinking about how much work you haven't done can create a lot of anxiety. Don't do that. And don't compare your path to anybody else. Finally, it's not where you go to college, but it's how you college. That's the most important thing. All right, so we actually have a raffle. We have a 2-hour college research lab for free to raffle away. And this is where, and I know many of you all are just starting the research process. This is where, you know, for 2 hours, we have a group virtual workshop and we show you how to research colleges, how to research universities, how to do a college visit. So this is totally free. I'll put a link in the chat box. Just by completing that link, you'll be entered into the raffle, and I'll probably draw the name tomorrow or the day after, and I'll email you if you get access to that. And finally, we have a college planning conference coming up. I'm so excited about this, you guys. Austin doesn't have anything like this. Saturday, September the 24th, from 9 a.m. to 12:30. We're doing an in-person college planning conference with breakout sessions. There'll be breakfast there as well. We have a high-tech panel featuring TikTok, Google, and Meta. Jeff Nixon, who is the business incubator teacher and head chair coach, is actually moderating that tech panel. That's going to be so much fun. All high school grades, mom and dad, you're welcome to attend as well. So in the chat box is a link and you can register for that free college planning in-person presentation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Oh my gosh, this is such great information. So what I'm going to do now, we're still getting people admitting into this presentation. I'm going to look over some of the questions that have not yet been answered, and Trisha, Elizabeth, Dale, just feel free to, you know, start speaking up and answer some of them, and continue, parents, to add any questions into the chat. We'll try to get to as many as we can. So let me scroll back here. One question is, what kind of internships over the summer are available for students in, oh, never mind, it's been answered. Thank you. Did you answer the UT published admissions statistics? Okay. Okay, this I think is specific to Trisha, Elizabeth, and Dale. It says, are your counseling fees on your websites? If you could answer that, please.
I'm happy. Or Trisha, do you want to go ahead and take? I saw you.
I was just going to say, no, ours are not. However, on our website, you can sign up for a free 30-minute consultation where we talk about what you're looking for and what we do. And then we talk about fees during that.
I have the same, similar to Trisha. I have a consultation about 45 minutes with families. Students can join as well to talk about these things. I mean, I do have packages like many of us do, but I also, you know, recognize that some students, especially the seniors, that may just need essay help, for example. So I do some hourly work as well.
I'm a little bit like Ms. Hunt as well, so you can definitely schedule a 30-minute consultation. But we do lots of free events like the College Planning Conference, and we have a free webinar series. So even if you aren't able to purchase services with us, fine, at least participate in the free stuff that we have going on.
Great, thank you so much. It looks like there is a question here. Where can I find a list of schools that give merit scholarships based only on GPA and test scores?
Okay, I'll take that real quick. So this is why it's so important to create that balanced college list. And we recommend 6 to 8 schools for that list. Your scholarships are going to be given to you based off of your accomplishments and achievements. Those are going to come from your safety schools. So a lot of colleges will have auto scholarships like ASU and some various other colleges. But if scholarships is something that's so important to your family, a balanced college list that leans heavy on the safety schools is what I would recommend.
Thank
And
you.
and along that, October 1st is a big day. That's the FAFSA goes live. So I encourage parents to complete it regardless of your financial situation, or at least take a look at it. And some of the private schools, you'll also be doing the CSS, which you will find on the College Board website. A lot of the private schools utilize that. It's much like the FAFSA, but it's somewhat more detailed, but it will answer a lot of your questions. And some of the schools do look at that information when they're looking at merit aid.
Great. There is a question about, is there a different process you recommend for smaller colleges when you are applying to the college rather than the major itself?
I don't really suggest, I mean, there's not really a different process as far as like the application process. I do tend, whenever students are applying to a school where you are applying to the major, then, we focus on that more, which goes back to what I said and what Dale said about like the package and the layering. So some of that may be different, but that, actual what you're doing is about the same.
Great, thank you. Our school counselors are doing a great job answering most of the questions and already in the chat. So please scroll down if you ask the question, because they are answering a lot of them. So I think the one that is not yet answered is any resources you know of that can help indicate how easy, hard it is to change majors once you're accepted or enrolled.
This is such a really good question. And I love that there's questions also about scholarships, because too many times students are focusing on academic fit and very few even think about social fit. But affordability really is something that should lead that college list, because parents, where you send your baby to college will be the most expensive gift you give them. And I think being transparent with the family scholarship, running the numbers, and if you can't afford that college out of state, let's not even go through that application, is something that's important. And to answer the question a moment ago about transferring inside colleges and universities, this is something that our lab is going to cover. This is so important to engage with university admissions officers. Everybody has an admissions officer. They have territories assigned to Eames, to Austin, maybe Texas. As you're going through these research opportunities, ask the Office of Admissions, how does it work if I change my mind? Can I go from college A to college B? These colleges have their own way of doing things. And this is such a great question, because a lot of times that answer is not on the website. And many times high school students ask questions they can easily find on a website or through an alumni. So that's a really good question, and an excuse to demonstrate interest with the university by connecting with that admissions officer.
Awesome.
And I meant to mention this earlier. There are not only some great virtual tours that you can find on the college websites, but I'm going to use the University of Texas as an example. dig into that admissions tab and you will see that they have a calendar specific to each college, or most of the colleges, and even some specific majors within colleges, info sessions. Not only is that a great way to demonstrate interest, but you will learn so much from those sessions. Even if the University of Texas is not on your list, they will talk about things that schools look for in students that are applying to those majors. Some of them are in person, such as Plan 2 at University of Texas. I definitely suggest, if you are applying to Plan 2, that you attend that one. There's an in-person and a virtual. So take note of those calendars. They're adding new dates all the time. A lot of the schools do offer that as well, but that one's in your own backyard. And so I think that you can learn a lot regardless of which schools you're applying to.
Thank you so much. Well, in the interest of everyone's time, we have hit the 1 o'clock mark, and I want to first just give a huge thanks to Trisha, Elizabeth, and Dale for joining us today and providing us such wisdom on the college application process. Really appreciate you giving up your time today to be with over 200 and I think 25 parents were on at one point. Also want to thank so much our Westlake school counselors, Katie Broderick, Amy Lamhammer, and Carmine Castaldo. And I think, oh yes, do you want to unmute yourself and announce it? We have an announcement coming in.
Sorry. One last thing. On Wednesday, September 28th, we will be having an essay workshop for the students during lunch. For both lunches, we will have representatives from Texas Tech and maybe some other colleges, as well as some of our English teachers, to help your students with essays. So if they can bring their essays, or at least some of their ideas, that would be helpful for them to come and get help with that.
Thank you. Also, just wanted to let you know, if you were not able to see the whole presentation, or if you have a friend that wasn't able to be here today, we understand people are busy. We did record this. It is going to be like a cloud link, and so we will post it to both the counseling website and to Healthy Chaps, and probably put it out in the next newsletter. It won't be able to go out in this Friday because we won't have it completely available yet, but hopefully by the next one. But as always, we're here for you. So please send any other questions that you might not have been able to answer our way. And thank you again, Trisha, Elizabeth, and Dale. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.